Welcome to Wednesday. It's the 7th day of February, 2024. Your Day Weather Podcast brought to you by Hot Springs County Travel and Tourism. Head to Thermopolis to swim, soak, and slide. Head to thermopolis.com. No matter how cold and snowy it gets, you're always going to be warm in Thermopolis. Well, folks, the West Coast storm that's been making the headlines and flooding California with an estimated, from the modeling, this is an estimate, but one estimate comes out to around 11 trillion gallons of water hitting the West Coast here over the last several days with the stormy weather. Well, the remains of the West Coast storm now going to start to move eastward across the Great Basin and into the Rockies. As we've been mentioning over the last couple of days, it's all disorganized. The bigger mountain ranges, the Sierra Nevada, the Basin and Ranges, the Intermountain West is going to, all of the terrain kind of disorganizes the storm as it heads east. But as we've seen with that huge amount of water that hit the West Coast, there's going to be a lot of moisture and instability moving across the western states, just not in an organized fashion. So you tend to get pockets of snow and colder temperatures coming across the region starting today and lasting through the weekend. It's going to be the northern areas that are going to have the most consistent snow. Montana, the northern counties of Wyoming, you're going to have the areas where the snow will be more continuous, more on a widespread basis, but you're going to have pockets of snow elsewhere. This is where it's kind of hard to pinpoint where the snow is going to fall because it'll be a patchwork. It'll snow in one spot, down the road a ways, it won't snow there. Kind of a patchwork area of snowfall through the weekend and early next week, and temperatures will gradually get colder. So if you're going to be traveling in the western United States over the next 5 days, you're going to run into some locations where you're going to run into slick roads and highways and mountain passes. Overall, this will be a good pattern for the high country to pick up more snow and help continue to boost that snowpack, which needs more boosting. The pattern is going to stay active, and right around the Valentine's period, around, let's say, a week from today, and we'll show you here in a graphic later, we might see the Pacific and the Canadian air masses join forces. And that's usually a way to make weather around here when you get a little bit of Canada and you get a little bit of Pacific working together. Great shot of some Kelvin Helmholtz clouds, this time down in Albuquerque. From the land of enchantment, we've got a good wave there coming likely off the northern mountains of New Mexico there, showing you how strong and moist the pattern is coming off the Pacific. It's a treat when you get to see those clouds. Thanks, Mark, for sending that in. The satellite imagery this morning shows this kind of the chaotic structure here of what's going on. If you look real close, you can see some subtle circulations right here as the low is getting a bit fragmented. It still has a good pipeline of moisture. This will be causing some showers out here over the plains. And then basically what is here is what's left of the storm. And over the course of the next several days, these lows will be rotating through the Intermountain West and the Western High Plains. And you can see the Pacific is still very active, and that will play a role later on. The radar shows kind of the chaotic nature of things. You see, we've got areas of showers developing out in that moist flow. Then we've got some stuff here. We've got some overrunning snows starting to form in Canada, some showers still along the coastal areas. So the radar kind of reflecting the patchwork nature of what's going on. The current advisory map here, this is for fog in the gray. Large part of Montana, northern and northwestern areas of Wyoming and western North Dakota, you've got winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings in effect right there. We'll continue to see a flow of moisture into Wyoming's western mountains. The Bighorns, you're going to get some snow out of this. Significant snow for the Wasatch, the rim country of Arizona. So there's going to just continue to be a lot of weather, but it's moving more eastward now off the coast. And there you can see those three areas of low pressure that we identified. So this is today, this is by Saturday. So for the next several days, some form of low pressure is going to be overhead. We need to watch this low. If it gets better organized over Utah Friday night and the Saturday, it may be a little bit more of a snow producer right here and right here in those two areas. So we'll kind of keep an eye on this guy right here to see if it doesn't play out as something a little bit more significant. But right now we're still looking at things being a bit disorganized. But we've got the moisture. we've got colder air that's going to be coming on into the western United States and the western high plains here as we get to the end of the week and the weekend. Then you can see if we put all of this in motion, this is starting today and this goes through Sunday. And you can see the moisture kind of comes in waves. And there's that patchwork that we're showing you of the precipitation as it comes on through. So between now and the weekend, waves of Pacific moisture come through in patches, some here, some there. But if you add it all up, it looks like this. And then when you take a look at the frozen precipitation outlook, looks like this. So we're going to see this more consistent area of snow up here into these areas with this first kind of next 24 to 48 hours. Look at the snow in the mountains. Very, very productive mountain snow pattern right here. But this is what may come in over the weekend. A little bit of snow comes out into the plains. That's that low over Utah on Saturday that we'll need to keep an eye on. So hopefully we'll continue to see the snowpack grow, and good news for skiers and snowmobilers. But if you're going to be traveling late this week and over the weekend, be ready for some winter weather. Looking out further ahead. Now this is where we're looking at right around Valentine's Day of next week. We see this high pressure wanting to build along the west coast or just into western Canada here. This high could end up being a little further east. It could end up being a little bit further west, and that will play an important role in how much cold air comes in. But when you get a high building into here, you're going to open the door to Canada for a lot of the U.S. east of the Rockies. And what we're looking at here, this is by Wednesday night into Thursday of next week, a low sliding out of Alberta, and this will drag in cold air behind it. And what this is showing, and the other models are showing this as well, is that you're going to get colder air spilling along and east of the divide like this, coming out of Canada. It'll be pretty chilly air. And this low off the Pacific coast, the counterclockwise rotation around it will be drawing Pacific air. So you may set up a boundary of Pacific meeting Canada sometime towards the middle of next week. It all depends on that axis of the ridge, where this ridge forms. But if it forms here or a little bit further west, you're going to get overrunning. Overrunning precipitation as Pacific meets Canadian. And that's something for the middle to the end of next week we'll keep an eye on. But for along and east of the divide, this is a cold signal developing as we get towards the middle to the end of next week. While maybe the weather gets a little bit better here in the southwest, but I don't think for long because the Pacific is going to stay very active. There you can see, if we were to just highlight this, but just take a look at temperature. This is by next Wednesday night into Thursday morning of next week. We have a bit of an Arctic push. You can see the purple and the green and the blues here pushing up against the divide, and that will then spill further south and east in the coming days. And what you get is the colder air pushes up against the divide, then you get the milder Pacific air pushing towards it, and you end up having that collision right there. So we'll see. It all depends on where that high begins to form. Have a good Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow.